The Go for Growth Show, powered by Beepo.
All right, hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of the Go for Growth Show. My name is Mark Engelmann and I will be your host today. I'm really happy to have Sel Watts, the Managing Director at What's Next, a HR consulting firm based in Brisbane. Welcome to the show, Sel.
Thanks, Mark.
So Sel, let's get straight into it. Your roots are obviously in human resources. Can you tell me about the most common HR challenge you see in businesses today and how is that challenge best addressed?
Yeah, I think the question that we get asked the most would be around how do I get people to increase performance? So obviously there's things around risk. Most businesses are concerned about protecting themselves, and we have a lot of people come to us in a reactive capacity. So they've had a claim against them or they've got someone not performing. But if we're talking to people proactively about what's their biggest concern, it's I want to increase performance. I know my team have got more in them, and how do I get them to go to that next level?
Yeah, interesting. Another thing that I find interesting about HR, and it's something that I kind of picked up on in my postgrad business studies, was that there's no C-suite position for a human resources officer. There's no chief human resources officer in most organizations. And it's kind of, I guess, a bit overlooked in business. A lot of people probably think that HR just equals payroll and employee relations, but it's so much more than that. Can you tell me about what sort of your view is on HR and why is it so important to get right in business?
Yeah, look, I think it's definitely changing in a lot of businesses where, certainly in larger organisations, you are finding that there are human resource professionals sitting in the C-suite. But in the space that we're in small to medium enterprise, it still is seen as just one of those annoying things that you have to deal with. As you said, payroll, which for me, payroll sits with finance, so we've never touched that. But I know a lot of people think that HR is payroll, and obviously dealing with issues or even organising the Christmas party, that sort of thing is what's considered to be HR. But I think if you ask any business owner, they would all agree that the people in their business is the most important aspect of their business. Now, people say it's your most valuable asset. Well, yeah, if the people are good, but it can also be the thing that brings your business down pretty quickly, because they're the ones that are either customer facing or they're the ones that are building your product. So if we don't have our people right, then really nothing else is going to work. So it's interesting actually, because we have no problems with investing in accountants and people to look after our money, but then we sort of put the people side apart. And I think a lot of the time we think that as individuals we're people, so we know how to deal with people-related issues and staff within organisations. And I don't know, I think it's a lot harder than what we all realise. And we are in an incredibly interesting time at the moment because our workforce is changing so much. We have 5 generations working together for the first time. Our Generation Z's coming in, and that is really going to change how our businesses are led and run, and that's really exciting and interesting for me. I mean, our focus is really on the future of work. So it's got to become the biggest priority for any business owner. What is happening with their people in their organisation?
Yeah, cool. So tell me a little bit about what's next. It's from what I can tell, it's your first business, and it's been going for quite a while now, and obviously going strong. How did the business come about, and what did you do prior to What's Next?
Yeah, sure. Well, we celebrated our 10th birthday this year, so that was pretty exciting. But when it started, it's quite interesting. Really, I started What's Next because I was really underwhelmed by the HR industry. So I started as a recruiter, and then I went into an internal HR role. And as part of my development, I started getting HR mentors and joining HR network groups. And I thought, wow, these guys are really not dynamic at all. And I remember when I replaced someone in my new role, and I was working for a law firm, and there was just no commercial thinking in the HR team whatsoever. And they really were more the employee advocate. And I was on a mission to change that in that organisation and really work for the partners, for the business owners, to achieve the strategic goals of the organisation. And that was great, but still everywhere I looked, I just wasn't inspired by my own industry. I didn't want to go to any HR conferences. I didn't want anything to do with industry. I thought this is a bit of a problem here. So when I started What's Next, it was really it was sort of like, I hate HR, so I'm going to start a business and I'm going to change it. And really that was what drove me. And I think it's quite interesting because I actually dropped out of uni 3 times. So I was never qualified. Yet I built the business on what I understood around small to medium business, commerciality, people, achieving an ultimate goal, and really focusing on the stuff that matters. And it's interesting now that What's Next has probably been more successful than any other HR consulting firm, small consulting firm in Australia, because of that fact that we have actually focused on what is real, like what is actually happening in a workplace. And what I think is interesting is that the business has got better and better over the years, as you would hope and expect. But the reason it's got better and better is because I've had more experiences as a leader of people. And so I know exactly what it's like for our clients as business owners in dealing with the everyday issues that we have with having staff. And I've always been of the focus that we need to be commercial around our businesses, because ultimately, if we're not going to be able to employ people and pay them and all of those really important things. And so I think for me, ultimately, the vision was always to change the way businesses or SMEs utilised HR. I think that we do that really well, but it's a really, it's a big job because people already have this perception, oh, you're in HR, so you're a recruiter, or you're a payroll person, or oh, you're the fun police. And ultimately, no, we're really business strategists ultimately, and our tool is people. So, how do we use that to make business better?
So tell me a little bit more about your different approach. There's obviously the Orthodox approach to human resources that you learn about in university, and you probably see applied in lots of, government agencies and then similar public kind of bodies. How is what you guys do different?
Yeah, look, I think that it's different in one sense because I'm always saying to my team, throw out the paperwork. I want conversations to be had between employers and employees. I want us to understand what's really going to make the difference in whatever the problem is. So I'm a big believer in getting the foundations of staff engagement right from the beginning. And so for me, that is having really clear vision, mission, and values within an organisation. And I'm not talking from a marketing perspective. I'm not talking about things that you put on your website for your customers. I'm talking about business owners truly understanding how they feel about their own business and then being able to tell that story to the employees. So ultimately, your employees treat your business like it's their own. That's my ultimate goal. I mean, we as business owners will have more freedom if our staff are treating our businesses like it's their own. So that's the first thing that I'm interested in when I go into any organisation. The other thing that I find as, and I feel like maybe I'm not answering your questions exactly how you're asking me, but I'm just going to keep going, that a lot of the time what I see is that one of the biggest issues in organisations are the structure of the organisation isn't right. So what I mean by that is that we have, over time, our businesses become an organisational chart that they've become because of time and just individuals within it, and we never stop to actually look and say, does this actually work? If we were going to start our business tomorrow, would we structure it how it is right now? Would we have those particular positions, and would those positions be made up of the way that they currently are? And in most cases they aren't. So I'm very particular about looking at an organisation and saying, does this actually make sense? When was the last time we looked at this? And most of the time when I look at businesses, they don't make sense anymore. And become that way over time. And so I like, so in relation to your question, we have lots of people coming to us and saying, oh, we need performance reviews, or we need training, or we need a salary benchmarking. And I'm like, great, I'm really happy to do that, but I'm not doing any of that until I know that there's some really important business foundations in place, because otherwise everything's siloed and it's really just there to tick a box, and it doesn't make any difference to the impact or results that you get in a business. So I guess I could go on and on and on, Mark. Just to give you a bit of an insight.
Yeah. Interesting. HR, I guess, has traditionally been a very sort of compliance-focused pursuit, and hence all the paperwork. And it's good to hear that, that there is a world beyond checkboxes and ticking forms. So excellent. So outside of HR and what's next, you've got a couple of other things on the go. You've recently co-founded a business called Scrappy. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so after being in What's Next for nearly, 10 years, but it was nearly 10 years as I started Scrappy, the business has been running well, and it's great, but it was sort of time for me to do a few different things. And I'd spent the last few years traveling a lot overseas, particularly to the US, and that was sort of starting to get some juices flowing that I really wanted to embark on something different. And so I sort of had a bit of a think about, what is it that I want to do? And there was a couple of things. I spent a week in Silicon Valley last year on this incredible tour where we went and visited all the amazing tech companies over there. Yeah, it was a week, and it was the best trip I've ever done, I think. And I've done I think I've done some really cool trips, but this one was, I don't know, it just was awesome. And I walked away from that. Well, actually, on that trip, every business we went into referred to themselves as being Scrappy, which is sort of, that agile, not needing things to be perfect, being able to change, try things. And every time we got on the bus to go to the next business, we would joke about the different terminologies that they would always use. One was having the secret sauce, one was knowing your North Star, and one was Scrappy. And anyway, over that 5 days, I realised that, I really want to do a tech business, and I've never been in tech before, and I thought I really want to do something that I can scale globally. I really want to move something particularly into the US market. And I thought, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to call it Scrappy. So in this week in Silicon Valley, I registered the name and I got the logo done. And on the last night, I said to our group that we'd been traveling with, I've just started a new business here in Silicon Valley. It's called Scrappy. And I'm like, that's amazing. What is it? I was like, I have no idea. And so then I went home and I was like, what else do I want? I thought, I'd really like some co-founders, because one, I'd had What's Next on my own for all of that time. And I knew that if I wanted to do scalable global businesses in tech, I was going to need some partners, because I didn't have any experience in any of that. So that was when I sort of went out and started talking about the things I wanted to do. And ultimately what that led to was that I wanted to do a number of different types of businesses and sort of see where they go. And Scrappy was formed, and I joined up with 2 other entrepreneurs and said, let's do you want to do this with me? Well, actually it was one person, and then we said, we really need a tech partner. So then we found another entrepreneur who was about to start something new. And so Scrappy was born. And so basically what it is, and I'm wary of using these words because, again, you automatically think of different things, but it's an incubator, but we're incubating the businesses. So in a traditional incubator, entrepreneurs come in with their business ideas. That's not what we're doing. They are our own startups. And so we have 3 at the moment that we're building. And probably the first one is Your Secret Sauce, which was a term that came from Silicon Valley, which was really about, what's the secret sauce of your business, or the DNA of your business. And that is the one that we've recently crowdfunded. So I think you're going to want to have a chat about that.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about Your Secret Sauce.
Yeah, so this one was actually also co-founded with my 10-year-old son, Digger.
Cool.
This Yeah, cool. Yeah. So this was his idea, and he said to me one day, "I really love writing," and I was like, "Oh, do you?" I knew you like reading, but I didn't realise he really loved writing. And he said, "Yeah, I really do, and I think kids should read and write more, do more writing." I was like, "Yeah, I think that would be a great idea." And then we just started talking, and he said, "Oh, I'd like to do this thing where we could write a joint story together." And so basically what Your Secret Sauce is a platform where a story is started by a kid, so a paragraph, and then another child comes in, writes the next paragraph, another child comes in, writes the next paragraph, and so on until they write a book together and can become a published author, and you can share, read the stories together. With the goal of, one, increasing literacy, increasing engagement in reading and writing for kids, but also connecting kids from all over the world and for them to be able to write stories together. It's sort of like that Choose Your Own Adventure. I don't know if you read those sorts of books. Yeah, I love those books. And so when Digger said, "I want to do this," I was like, I really like it. So I took it to the Scrappy team, and we were looking at we had about 8 different businesses ideas that we were looking at and saying which ones we're going to do. We can't do them all. And so I put Your Secret Sauce on the table and said, "Look, it's Digger's idea. If you don't think it's any good, that's totally fine. But let's just put it on the table with the others." And it was agreed that we thought it was good. And then I thought, you know what? This is an opportunity to really teach him an entrepreneurial journey, take him on an entrepreneurial journey. So rather than us just fund this, why don't we crowdfund it? And it's not the ideal business for crowdfunding because it's not a product and something that you can really easily show and see, or show a potential backer. So I knew it was risky, but we thought, the journey will just be really interesting to teach him, and also hopefully show other young kids that if you have an idea in this day and age, you can actually bring ideas to reality, which, nothing against how old we are, but crowdfunding wasn't around at that, when we were, and it just wasn't possible. And so the crowdfunding journey, whoa, man, that was extreme. I never realised. Well, I met with a couple of people who had done it successfully, but I think it's about a 38% success rate for crowdfunding projects. And I was sort of, went into it thinking, oh yeah, I've got this. And it was full on, like, took over my life. But we were successfully funded, which is incredible. And which meant that now, so that was 2 weeks ago. Now we're in development stage, and we'll have it, and it will come to life, and hopefully we get a million subscribers.
Yeah, awesome. And so when's that due to go live, do you think?
So our goal is pre-Christmas. So
okay, wow.
Yeah, so we're really busy developing at the moment and getting it all finalised. But and obviously also involved with that is looking after our backers, because now we have 144 backers that we we need to nurture through this process too. So yeah, it's really cool. So that's Your Secret Sauce, and that's been a really interesting experience, and I'm loving watching the development. It's cool because it's a very new space for me, and also Digger, my son, he's really the face or the ambassador, so he's doing lots of social media and video and things like that to keep promoting it, and that's really cool to watch him learn and grow in that space too.
Yeah, I think it's awesome that you've kind of been able to introduce your son, at 10 years old to, the world of business. I know the Australian government's a pretty big supporter of entrepreneurship, and I think the government kind of sees the future of the country in small business. Having gone through this sort of process with Digger, what are your thoughts on our future generations, and are we doing enough to raise, superstar entrepreneurs?
Well, I have a few views on this, and probably not necessarily in relation to kids.
Yeah.
But I'm really concerned about the startup space and what we're feeding young entrepreneurs around that world. And I think the incubators have a lot to answer for, to be honest. In my view, what I'm seeing is young entrepreneurs, well, one, we're telling everyone that you should be an entrepreneur and you know, it's cool and it's awesome and you should do it. And I just don't agree with that. I don't think everyone's built to be an entrepreneur, and I don't think that we're sharing enough about the reality of what it actually means and the sacrifice and the impact it has on your whole life and all of those sorts of things. But the thing that's concerning me is that we seem to be teaching young entrepreneurs how to raise capital and pitch, and that's about all. And nobody seems to be talking about how to actually run a business or create a service or product that someone's actually going to want to buy. Because we know there's no point asking our friends and family because they'll say it's amazing. But would people actually put their hand in their pocket and pay for whatever it is you're building? And if they did, are they going to continue to do that? And is there enough customers out there that will continue to do that so your business is still around in 5 and 10 years' time? And nobody's talking about that. Everyone's just talking about raising capital and pitching. And we see article after article every day of young people or anyone raising all this money, and we're not seeing the actual results of that. How many of these businesses are actually around in 5 years' time that have actually given a return back to their investors? And I think it's a very scary space, and I think we're going to have a lot of graveyards full of startups in the coming years, because we're not having the right conversation. And I seriously believe that yes, some businesses may need funding, but I certainly think that business entrepreneurs are getting funding way too quickly. And I'll give you an example, which I think is really interesting. I was talking to a young guy who'd done his startup, had been going for 5 months, and he said, I've got these investors interested. And I was like, wow, you're going for investment already? And he said, well, I wasn't, but these guys approached me and so that's the ego kicks in. It's like, people are interested, so that means my business must be good. And I was like, okay, cool. So, what do you want? What do you want these investors for? And he said, I'm thinking, mainly to open doors to customers, but obviously a bit of cash, but mainly to open doors. And I was like, okay, cool. And then as the conversation went on over, an hour breakfast, what we realised over that time is that he hadn't actually worked out who his customer was yet. He was testing corporates, he was testing SMEs, and that's fine. He was seeing who was going to buy, utilise this platform that he had built. And I said to him, so do you realise that right now you're looking at and taking on an investor to open doors for you, and you're going to give away equity? You don't actually know what doors you want opened. So what happens in 12 months' time when you've been dating your business and you've been getting to know it and realise that these are the doors you want opened, and this investor can't open those doors? So then you're going to have to go away and give more equity away to the people who can open those doors, and in 3 years' time you own none of it and you've got no motivation for it anymore, and so on. And he was like, oh, whoa. And I was like, yeah, just give it some time, dude. You need to get to know your own business before you start giving away equity and going down paths that you don't even know. And I just thought this was really interesting, because the ego was driving a decision that wasn't right for this business. He just needed a year, and he needed a year of, ultimately he wanted someone to open doors for him as opposed to pounding the pavement himself, which, as you would have experienced and I experienced, we had to do that. We had to pound the pavement and do the cold calls, and we didn't have all this stuff available. We didn't have co-working spaces. We didn't have mentors. I didn't even know the word startup or entrepreneur or anything when I started out. And so I'm really concerned about this. And the other day I went and visited an incubator, and I was talking about my concerns about this, and they obviously were disagreeing with me, which is totally fine. We're having a good conversation about it. And anyway, the guy showed me this wall of amazing logos, and it's amazing. These startups all have these fantastic brands. I don't know how they afford it, but anyway, I look back on my first brand and it's just horrible. But I said, okay, well, tell me about some of these amazing startups that you've got on your sort of wall here. And he said, this is a really awkward conversation actually, because most of them aren't running anymore. And I was like, oh yeah, well, that's sort of the space. And I said, well, tell me about one of the success stories on this wall. And he said, well, there's only one. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So, you know, tell me about it. He's like, this is so awkward. And I was like, I don't understand why. And he said, well, it's the only one that actually didn't go for capital raising and actually grew their business through picking up clients and growing through revenue. And I was like, wow, isn't that new age? Like, you know, we are completely forgetting the fundamentals and the foundations of business and teaching kids about sustainability. But at the moment, it's all about speed. And I get that, but I don't actually think it's required as much as what we expect or as much as what we think. So, yeah, that's my rant on that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, you kind of raised the question, how does an entrepreneur learn how to run a business if they don't do it themselves? You know, and they don't stuff the odd thing up here and there, and, you know, someone just feeds them a whole heap of money and they just get people in to do everything for them. It's not.
Yeah, and you know, the thing I think is really interesting is that with Scrappy, so there's 3 of us that are all experienced in business and all have money to invest into the business. But our strategy from day one was lean. And yet, you know, we're all experienced and we could throw money in, and we're like, nah, we're going to do that bit ourselves, and we're going to do this, and we're going to, you know, all of those things, because we need to learn our own business. You know, we need to understand it ourselves before we know where the best investment should come from, if there should be investment. And so and also the other thing that concerns me about this is that we're then bringing kids into entrepreneurship for an end result. And in my personal view, you become an entrepreneur because you love the day-to-day, you love the journey, you love the grit, you love the grind. You know, that's why you're doing it. But if you're coming in because you want to be this superstar in 3 years' time, turn around this and have this money, it's not about that. Any person that is a true entrepreneur is not driven by those things. Yes, you know, it's great to have the rewards and the money and the lifestyle and all that sort of stuff, and we all deserve that because of how we work so hard. But that's not why we're in it. And I just don't think that we're having, as I said before, I just don't think we're having the right conversations.
Yeah, no, look, I agree with you totally. So we're nearing the end of the interview, Sel. What's your number one tip for business owners looking to grow their business?
Yeah. So, look, I had to think about this one. And I thought, you know, the question, the word within this question is about looking to grow.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, what does that mean? I was like, well, what does that mean? And, you know, we all are all about growth. You know, we've got to grow. But what, like, in what way? I mean, is that a revenue growth? Is that profit growth? Is it numbers of staff? Is it, you know, clientele? Or is it things as much as less clients but higher higher fees? There's all these things. So I think I'd say in the first instance, you know, what is the ideal? Because if we can take our ego out of it, I mean, I've gone through all the stages of ego throughout my journey in business. You know, revenues ego, staff numbers is ego, the fancy office is ego, you know, blah, blah, blah. But really, at the end of the day, what do you want from your business? Like, is your business a lifestyle business? Is it a, you know, I want to be the leader in my industry, like really take out my industry? Do I want to be the niche boutique? Do I want to be the innovator? And then, but I think if we can work that out first, I want to have that conversation before we talk about growth, because growth is going to be different depending.
For everyone.
Depending on that. But if we're just saying, well, you know, if people want to grow their business, I would say patience and around taking the time, because I think we're all obsessed with speed because we're all going to die tomorrow, so we need to do everything today. But if we can actually just slow it down, we know that if we can slow it down and do things properly, then we'll ultimately get faster growth over a long period of time. It just might start off a bit slower. That's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, awesome. And have you used any new technology apps or services recently that have really assisted you in saving time or, again, growing and scaling your business?
Yeah, so I think probably the biggest focus for us has been around social media. So using things like Buffer and Flitter and Hootsuite and that sort of stuff has been really important for us, because all of my team, every employee within What's Next has social media KPIs that they have to hit. And so anything that we can do to support them to meet those KPIs has been probably the main technology that we've been using. But the other thing I would say is that we have gone pretty much, we hardly communicate internally at all via email. Everything is via Slack now.
Yeah,
so
okay.
We have different channels for different things, even to the point where we'll have a family channel, which is where you put, your kids' school photos or, their nippers photos or whatever. Our impact channel, which is when we are making our B1, G1 impacts and doing our philanthropic stuff. And then bell rings, which is when we win clients, and then general technical, knowledge. So we use those channels, and that's how we communicate, and we can keep track of everything, and that's been awesome. So yeah, they're probably the social media and Slack have been the main things that we've really implemented over the last little while.
Yeah, great. And how's Slack affected your email inbox?
I think significantly, actually. We really very rarely email. We never do any group emails with the team anymore, and then everyone's replying, all that sort of stuff. But even with Scrappy, so we've got so there's three businesses in 3 startups in Scrappy at the moment: Your Secret Sauce, Zoota, and People Beats, and so they've all got their own Slack channel, and that's how we communicate as business partners for all of those different businesses as well. So my inbox is, much more friendly.
Yeah, awesome. Everyone likes a good-looking inbox.
Oh.
All right, Sel, well, look, thanks for your time. That's been great. I've really enjoyed today's chat.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
The Go for Growth Show. Powered by Beepo.